Welcome in to this Tuesday edition of Palmetto Sports Daily. I'm Carmine here in Greenville. Privileged and honored to be joined by these two fellas. That's Rick Henry in Columbia and Kevin Bilodeau in Charleston. And we start by talking about another star, Cam Boozer for Duke, possible Naismith Player of the Year, leading the Blue Devils to a 13-point win over the Clemson Tigers. Really, it was actually a bigger margin than that. Clemson was down 22 points in the second half. It was only a 5-point game after the first half, but then Duke went on a 21-5 run and, kind of pulled away and easily beat Clemson. Although the Tigers' defense was good, only giving up 67 points to a top 5 ranked team. They scored their fewest points all season with only 54. Carter Welling, you just saw him there, number 22, led the way with 12 points. And it was a different result than the result last year against the top 5 Duke team led by Cooper Flagg, who you just saw, the number 1 pick, when the Tigers upset Duke. And this time, unfortunately, Clemson left upset themselves. But here's Brad Brownell about bouncing back and what he's told his team after this tough loss, 2 losses in 1 week, after just 1 loss in the last 2 months, gearing back up at Wake Forest.
We can't forget who we are. We got our identity, what makes us good. We also can't forget the fact we've won 20 games this year.
Right.
You don't want guys to lose confidence. You want them to understand that what we do works and just stick with things. We got to do a couple things better on offense to help our guys and make sure that we're really sharp defensively, which I thought we were much better against Duke on Saturday.
They definitely were much better against Duke Saturday because they held that team to just 67 points in that frenzied Cameron Indoor Stadium atmosphere after just giving up 76 to a Virginia Tech team, which is not nearly as good as Duke or Clemson, really. They should have done better in that game, and Coach Brownell mentioned that too. But Kevin, your concern level about the Tigers going into a game that they should easily win against Wake Forest. Wake is only 4-8 in ACC play. Clemson is in 3rd place now, but they're still 10-3 in the ACC, even after back-to-back losses last week. And like Brad mentioned, 20-6 record overall. Your concern level, or are you pretty confident that this Tigers team will bounce back and finish strong with only 5 games left?
Yeah, I would say my concern level is pretty minimal for the Tigers at this point. That loss at Duke, I don't think anyone's going to hold that against them. That's a top 5 team. You go onto their home court on a nationally televised game on Saturday afternoon. Like you said, they held with them for the first half, and then things just got away from them in the second half. I don't hold that one pretty much against them at all. The loss that worried me more was the loss earlier last week when they fell at home to Virginia Tech. That one kind of showed me that they were maybe looking ahead to Duke a little bit too much, and that's what worried me more. But no, I mean, any team is going to have a bad week. At any point during the year, you're going to lose 2 or 3 games in a row. So if this is the worst streak they have this season going into the NCAA tournament, then Clemson's going to be just fine, Rick. And I expect them to bounce back tomorrow night.
My concern is, Carmine, do you get the feeling from being around the program? Of course, Coach Brownell won't say this. Is it possible that the Tigers peaked too soon? They really needed a bounce back tonight to get off that losing train, because the thing I keep hoping and wanting to see the Tigers achieve is an ACC championship. And I want them to be operating, full speed ahead when they get to March. So they need to show me that they can bounce back. Hey, put the 2 L's behind them, and we're just going to roll right into March and see how far they can go.
Yeah, that's a great point, Rick, because a lot of people were saying that about this Tigers team last year as well. You go 18-2 in the ACC, you get into the ACC tournament, quickly out, I think, in just their second game to a really good Louisville team, and then, of course, you get upset in the first round of the NCAA tournament last year against McNeese and Clemson graduate Will Wade, who's now coaching at NC State. So I personally don't think so, because they've been much deeper also this year into their bench with Ace Buckner and Nick Davidson, 2 of the leading scorers on the team, coming off the bench, one of the best bench scoring teams in all of the conference. Whereas last year, when you could argue they peaked too soon and petered out in the postseason, they really had hardly a bench at all. So that makes me more confident this week. And also the fact that if you're going to bounce back against a couple opponents, Wake Forest and Florida State are 2 good ones to do that. Like I said, Wake Forest 4-8 in conference play. Florida State just 5-7 in conference play. And also a good note about bouncing back, it's going to be a special Mother's game for the Florida State game on Saturday. So all the mothers of the players are going to be honored and receive some special treatment and give some special treatment to their sons out there on the court. So maybe some home cooking and some home love will catapult this turnaround into the end of conference play as well. But we've hit the end of our block here. We'll be right back with much more sports, including Gamecocks baseball stars in the Hall of Fame right after this.
And welcome back to Palmetto Sports Daily. Right now we're going to talk about some better times for Gamecock baseball. And I'm talking about the era under Ray Tanner when they won 2 national championships and made 6 trips to the College World Series. But Ray Tanner and one of his former pitchers, Kip Balknight, they were inducted into the College Baseball Hall of Fame last week in Overland, Kansas. There's Balknight right there. He's the winningest pitcher in South Carolina history, compiling a career record of 45-12 with a school record 482 innings pitched and a program best 66 starts. He also holds the school record for strikeouts, and in 2000 he went 17-1. And Tanner and Balknight both say it was even more special because the two of them went in together. You know about Ray's accomplishments, those back-to-back national championships in 2010, 2011, took him to Omaha in the College World Series 6 times, and they won those 2 titles and played for 2 others. Here's Balknight and Ray on their big accomplishment.
To be able to represent this great university and my teammates was just amazing. South Carolina, as many of you know, means the world to me, and my time here at South Carolina I'll forever cherish. But this award really it goes to all of my teammates and coaches that I had here at South Carolina. Just countless numbers of guys that were just so influential, and just it was a total team effort, and it's very humbling to be a part of that Hall of Fame class.
And I always heard that, average players to below average players would make good managers and coaches. Mm-hmm. So I thought I had a shot. So I went in that direction. But I never would have thought about being in that group. And being in this class, this is College Hall of Fame class, and watching everybody go in, it's like, I'm not in that group. I'm honored to be here, but I still have so much respect for what they've accomplished.
Yeah, going back to 2000 when Kip went 17-1, they won, I believe, like 55 games that year. They were the #1 overall seed. Going into the playoffs, they didn't make it to Omaha, but that was kind of was the pillar led by Balknight that led to those championship teams. So great to see those two get that big honor.
Yeah,
Carmine?
definitely. Awesome to see that. And Kip Balknight, like you listed off his accomplishments, Rick, and his 45 wins, tied for the most in the SEC of all time for a pitcher, the only Golden Spikes Player of the Year award winner from South Carolina. And Gamecocks fans, unfortunately, are begging and pleading for those days to come back around because so far in the Pulmonary era and years before that, it hasn't been the same, although it is a tough standard to reach, of course, with the 2 national titles, even making it to the College World Series championship, a 3rd year in a row there. But we do have an exciting announcement to see if these Gamecocks can turn the corner. They're playing just down the road from here at the Spartanburger Stadium, taking on Wofford in a game that will have already been played by the time this airs, but it really is a great showcase of what we have on Palmetto Sports and Entertainment Network. This will be the first ever SEC game that we're airing live on our network. It'll be between the Gamecocks baseball team and Wofford, played at the Spartanburger Stadium, so it's like a trifecta of baseball greatness. It started at 5:30 this evening, which would be Tuesday evening, and we have many more games, including 15 Braves preseason games on Palmetto Sports and Entertainment. And I know we all have our different locations here, but as far as in Greenville, it's Spectrum Channel 703 and 21.2 if you have antenna. But Kevin, hey, not only is Palmetto Sports Daily a big deal on PSEN, we also have some great live events all baseball season long too.
We do, and you mentioned the Braves, and that kicks off Sunday afternoon with their spring training game against the Twins. I wanted to ask about the Gamecocks, though, as they get ready for this game against Wofford tonight. What's Paul Mainieri going to do to make sure they're not too tired after this long bus ride to the upstate? Because, I mean, we saw how the exhaustion hit him on Saturday after playing one game. So, I mean, this ride might really hurt them, Rick.
Yeah, well, I hope they got a good night's rest. But I've been thinking about Coach Mainieri's post-game comments after they lost Game 3 of their opening series with Northern Kentucky. And sometimes, you just don't need to think out loud. Even if he thought they were tired, he didn't do himself any favors by saying, oh, we were tired. And then he made it even worse when he said he didn't have them ready to play, especially when you come off a season where you don't make the playoffs. You go 28-29. You only win 6 SEC games. So every time you stumble, the fans, the media, they're going to go, uh-oh, here we go again. So hopefully they'll be well rested and they can get their bats going, because on an opening weekend, when you're a power 4, power 5 team, you need those innings where you score 7, 8, 9 runs, double-digit scoring. But it didn't happen, so maybe the bats can come to life against Wofford. Kevin?
Rick, I think this is exactly what I was trying to say yesterday. Sometimes you just don't need to say everything that you're thinking when you're in front of that microphone and on top of that podium. Because, we had said if Mainieri sits down after that loss on Saturday and just says, we didn't have the bats today, just a tough day, happens in baseball, we move on to Wofford on Tuesday, then nobody says a word about it, and it just, flies to the back, and we'll talk about this again. But because he said they look tired on the second day of the season, and because he said I didn't have them ready after one of the worst Carolina baseball seasons we've had in decades here, it just keeps putting the pressure on, and it shines the light on Paul Mainieri that maybe he's not the guy for this job, Carmine.
Maybe, and tough attitude to start off the season with, because like you said, it's only a few games in. Now, they did play that doubleheader on day 1. It was a long day, but you're supposed to beat down on this Northern Kentucky team, and that wasn't
They're
the only
college
one-run
kids.
game. Exactly, they're college kids. They should be able to bounce back, similar to what we were saying from the West Coast trip for Clemson men's basketball as well recently. But Rick, I mean, the last game was a one-run game and a loss to Northern Kentucky, but the game before that, they needed KJ Scobie to hit a walk-off home run just to beat Northern Kentucky by 1 run. And the first game was a 5-2 win, so a little bit bigger of a margin. But still, I mean, 2 one-run games against a team that on paper you would think you should easily be able to beat.
They got off to slow starts, all weekend long. And like in that first game, I believe they didn't score until like the 4th or 5th inning. And then you mentioned the second game where, they need a walk-off in the 9th inning, and then they lose 3-2 in the third and final game. So, need to get the bats going. And, again, think before you talk. All right, that's going to do it for this segment of Palmetto Sports Daily. Another timeout, and we'll be right back.
Welcome back to Palmetto Sports Daily. Now, the high school basketball playoffs kicked off on Monday, the first round continuing tonight on Tuesday. And, of course, that means it's time for my, triannual speech against the South Carolina High School League that we have to cut down on the playoffs because some of these games are just out of hand. They get ridiculous. And we had another one in the Low Country last night in the first round of the 1A girls basketball postseason. Military Magnet, who has been just a juggernaut in this classification over the last 6-7 years. They've been one of the best teams, if not the best team in the state at 1A over the last several years. And they showed why last night in their first round matchup against Johnsonville. This is early action, and you're getting a sense of what they were doing to Johnsonville early on in this game. Military Magnet would go on to win this game by the score of 89-4. And I want to reiterate that one more time, 89-4. Now, that is not even the biggest military magnet win we've talked about on this show in the last year plus. I believe they won a game last year, 103-2. And I'm not putting anything on military magnet here. I'm not putting anything on the Johnsonville team. I'm more just upset that the Johnsonville team gets put into this position. I don't even like that the military magnet team gets put into this position. There are too many teams. And I've said this over and over, and I know Rick and Carmine are sick of hearing me say this, but there's too many teams in the playoffs. And you can say it's because of money, and these teams are, bringing in some cash from the couple hundred people that went to see this game last night. You can't convince me of the logic of what playing this game offers to anyone. Even if they made a couple $100s, they still got to spend money to pay the refs and pay the people to work concessions and whatnot. There's no logical reason this game needed to be played last night. There's no logical reason a Johnsonville team that went 2-14 in the regular season should even be playing in the postseason. And there's no reason that Military Magnets team should have to put themselves at injury risk to play a team like this in the first round of the playoffs. Rick, you've heard me do this over and over again. Try and convince me otherwise if you can.
What was the score at halftime?
Don't know. We left after I think they were up 19-0, and we were out of there on to the next game. So,
okay, well I hope they went to a running clock. Okay, I hope they went to a running clock, because it kind of reminds me when I was in 8th grade and my team lost to Bar Street out of Lancaster, 101-31 at home. And when we went to Bar Street, thankfully, they decided to play with the running clock. Yeah, they blew us out again, but it wasn't as bad, and it wasn't in the playoffs. But you're right. I mean, I looked at the crowd there for that game, and it was sparse, and no one wants to sit through that. And it's very embarrassing to Johnsonville or anyone who gets whipped that badly. I mean, by 80-plus points. So, yeah, but again, remember we've had some discussions about everything comes down to money. And if they can make a few extra dollars, they're going to play these games, unfortunately.
But like you mentioned it, Rick, look at that crowd. There's maybe a couple hundred people there. Now, let's say I tried to do this math. Let's say they charge $5 for each person that got in. So you're starting at $1,000. You got to pay 3 referees. I don't know what the referees get. Let's say $100. So that's $300 out the window. You got to pay a timekeeper or scorekeeper probably another $50. You've got to spend how much money on an hour and a half ride or an hour 45-minute bus ride to and from Johnsonville? That's costing you a couple $100 right there. I just don't see how the money evens out to make it worth playing this game, Carmine.
No, I don't think it does either. And I think if they wanted the money to work out, they should just pay the other school like 50% of whatever it would have cost them to make this trip, pay them that money. They save 50% if it's really about a few $100s or $1,000, and then stay home. Because like you said, Rick, I mean, not only is the margin embarrassing, at least you guys put up 30 points when you said you guys got blown out like that and the other team scored 100. This team's scoring 4 points, which might have just been free throws. I don't even know if it was 2 baskets, but I mean, you're scoring less than a basket a quarter. That's crushing, to people who are playing the sport for fun at the high school level. So, yeah, I'm with you, Kevin. And by the way, I'll listen to this rant anytime it comes up because it's a great one. And Rick, I believe, just like Kevin, it should be changed. There's no reason to play these games.
Yeah, what they should do is, instead of putting in a team like Johnsonville who has no shot, just go, you guys aren't good enough. You don't meet the standards. And there's got to be other teams in that classification that you can slide in there so you can at least be somewhat competitive.
But, even if there's not, Rick, let's just give them a bye. Give them a bye in the first round. If we insist, because I had some people telling me on social media, well, we can't just cut a round off of the playoffs because there were some competitive games last night. And maybe there were. Personally, I'm fine if you just cut a round because none of the teams that won last night are probably going to go on to win a state championship at any of these levels. But if you want to argue that, that's fine. But just give them a bye. Give a team like Military Magnet a bye. And if your team has a losing record, they just don't belong in the postseason. That's just how it is. All right, I guess we're going to go to break now. We're going to be back to wrap up this edition of Palmetto Sports Daily right after this.
We've been verbally sparring so far on Palmetto Sports Daily, but now we're going to get into the physical fighting because the Carolinas Boxing Hall of Fame inducted 5 new members over the weekend. Let's take a look at this video and see some of the star-studded class right here. The induction taking place over in Spartanburg, and the leader of this class, former heavyweight champion Larry Holmes, who defeated the greatest Muhammad Ali back in 1980. Also, let's shout out the other inductees. Lender Vance Dunn, Billy Galt, James Mitchell Sr., and Jared Robinson, and some stars in attendance as well. Former heavyweight champs James Bone Crusher Smith, Ray Merciless Mercer, and featherweight legend Cedric Mean Man Mingo, who was actually very nice, and all these fellas took a chance to speak with us afterwards.
Muhammad Ali, I beat Joe Frazier, I beat all of them. I just whooped their butts, you know, and I did it without a threat.
I was a kid watching them guys. I mean, I seen them coming up when I was real young. So, you know, to be in their presence, when I fought Larry Holmes, you know, he was my idol, and I got a chance to fight him, and that was an honor. And to be here with him now today, him getting inducted, for me to be here for him, it's just amazing, man.
We're all connected at the hip because we all had to go through the same things to accomplish the goal that we all were after, and that's becoming champions.
Great moment there, Rick, and some of the stars from the golden age of boxing as well. We got to see no longer with the mean hooks, but they're able to still receive their accolades at the end of it.
Carmine, your shadow wasn't inducted because your shadow looked pretty good when you were boxing and air punching.
Thankfully, I didn't have to
Rick,
mix it up with anybody, Kevin.
It's a travesty of justice that Ella Grogan wasn't inducted into the Boxing Hall of Fame after the way she knocked out Carmine in Louisville.
Oh yeah, she looked pretty smooth in the ring. Oh man, all right.
Yeah, but
that's
she did
gonna
get
do
the Louisville Slugger nickname.
Hey, that does it for this edition of PSD. Have a great evening.